Okay, so you know that thing of when astrologers are always saying that the rising sign is the most important sign in your chart, more important maybe than any of the other placements in your chart, maybe even including your sun sign, and then nobody believes us? Well, you know what? I finally found a way to come up with the receipt.
Show me the receipts!
That's right. It's a brand new series here on Time for Queer Astrology. Let's get into the secrets of the signs. Oh, hey, cosmic cuties. It is your friendo, the Lady Ms. Vagina Jenkins, Black Queer Autistic Astrologer and artist. And I am outside today. Look at the beautiful flowers. Yeah, this is one of the Bay Area's first sunny summer days, and I wanted to take advantage of it and talk to you from outside. And yeah, this is an idea that I dreamt of. Basically, yes, I want to talk about how important the rising sign is, but I want to be able to break down each one of what the rising signs is and what it means by understanding each of the 12 houses in each one of the rising signs potential charts. And I hope that this series breaks down like how important the rising sign is and helps people to understand that like the holistic view of the chart is the thing, not any one particular placement. So yeah, let's start it off. Why not? Since we're in Cancer season, with the cardinal water sign of Cancer. Also, I'm aiming for these to be shorter form content. So let's see if I can cover all 12 houses in a sign in less than 10 minutes. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so Cancer rising is going to have a Cancer first house, meaning its first house, which is the house of self, the house of our identity, the house of our ego, the self-concept and idea that we have about ourselves, or even our appearance and how we present ourselves to the world, all of that's wrapped up in the first house. And so if that is rooted in Cancerian energy, then what can be said about being a cardinal kind of person, a person who takes leadership, who understands the importance of managing, particularly watery things? If it's this cardinal water sign, then how is this person viewing the world through the lens of somehow being a leader in the realm of feelings, emotions, intuition? I'll also say that because Cancer is ruled by the moon, what about this person's self-concept, identity, self-presentation, aesthetics, those kinds of things is variable and changeable like the moon is. And then we come to the second house, which for Cancer risings is going to be in Leo. So how much of this person's values are rooted in Leo kind of energy? Values around being affirmed, being seen, around self-confidence, or values straight up around creativity and self-expression. The second house is also known as the house of earned money. So, what about the way that they earn money in the world could be rooted in their self confidence, their self image, putting their self out there, shining somehow, being known, being seen, being a celebrity? Or what about their livelihood is somehow rooted in them being a monarch of sorts? I often associate Leo with that kind of regal energy. Or what about how you spend your money is rooted in needing to feel as if you are a monarch or a royal of some sort? And then we come to the Virgo third house of it all. So if the third house is about our communication strategies, our siblings, our local sort of community and travels within that community, then what can be said about experiencing those things in a Virgo kind of way? When I think about Virgo communication strategies or Virgo experiences of siblings, I just think about the experience of wanting to be really intentional, detailed, analytical in the ways that you think and the ways that you communicate. A third house in Virgo could really be could also be the experience of having like a really strong mental acuity or mental work ethic, or just a really strong and intentional sense of the way that you use language. And then we come to the fourth house. So the fourth house is all about our experiences of home and family, both in like the eternal sense, like what is my ancestry and my lineage, and also the family of origin that we come from, but also the family of origin and the home that we build for ourselves. So with the fourth house in Libra, a Cancer rising's childhood experiences may be very much rooted in a family of origin that keeps the peace. It could very much be the experience of wanting to look as if they're the ideal family to people on the outside looking in, whether that actually remains to be true or not. The best case scenario is that the desire for like harmony and pleasantness actually manifests in a family that is genuinely a happy, pleasant, well-adjusted, non-toxic family. But it can also be the experience of wanting to keep up appearances. Speaking of appearances, it could also be the experience of creating home and family for yourself that is rooted in understanding that home is sanctuary and that home must be beautiful in order to feel restful and restorative. And then we come to the fifth house being in Scorpio for Cancer risings. So the fifth house can be about a range of experiences. Basically, one thing that I call it is the house of like self actualization or solo pleasure. So things that can provide joy, like hobbies, or more complicated forms of self-expression like art and creativity. These are the kinds of things that I would find in the fifth house. You might also find experiences of, dating, fun, masturbation, just fun, sexy times. Speaking of sexy times, a fifth house in Scorpio is a very sexy time. It can lend itself to sorts of kink dynamics, or at least playing with like power in sexual relationships with other people. I really like the fifth house in Scorpio for that particular way of expressing sexual energy. Otherwise, fifth house in Scorpio experiences can be a little bit intense. So this is not a casual relationship or one night stand kind of energy, but rather a sort of intense melding of souls kind of energy. No matter what, though, because Scorpio is known for its not wanting to be perceived. This is a particularly private area of life for the Cancer rising person, or it can be. And then we come to the sixth house of our health and wellness routines and kind of just what our daily routines look like, generally speaking. So it could be like health, wellness related, but also like straight up 9 to 5 work related kinds of things. But with a sixth house in Scorpio,
Sagittarius.
freedom in the daily routine is paramount. And if freedom in the daily routine is paramount, I cannot imagine that this person would have a lot of success in a traditional 9 to 5, 30-minute lunch break, very regimented schedule kind of a day. Because Sagittarius is one of the most mutable signs, I feel like this is the kind of daily routine that needs to have room and space for flow. In terms of the kind of work that this person might be doing, I imagine it's definitely going to be something where it's about sharing ideas, sharing wisdom, or big picture kinds of thinking. This is not getting bogged down into the details of things. I would also expect that maybe there is traveling for work, or at least working with people who come from a different cultural background than you. So if we're talking about Cancer rising, then that is Cancer is the house of the self, the first house. Exactly opposite of the first house is the seventh house, and it deals with the opposite of the self, which is the other. How do we relate to people on a one-on-one basis, who are our best friends, our spouses, our business partners, our work wives, that kind of energy, the people that we connect to on a one-on-one basis, and the ways that we find and forge that connection. So with a seventh house being in Capricorn for the Cancer rising, this is very much the lens of relating to people through a sense of responsibility. I love you because I feel responsible to you. That kind of energy is what you'll see with the Capricorn seventh house. Because that level of responsibility and reliability is so important to the Cancer rising, they may even seek out partners that present that kind of reliable, responsible type energy. I'll also remind us that we're talking about two cardinal signs, two leaders, and how we relate to people who take on leadership roles in our relationships. Speaking of leadership, Capricorn rising very much is the type of earth-centered leadership. We're talking about cardinal earth energy. And with cardinal earth energy, I very much expect leadership in the realm of material resources and finances. So this is big provider kind of energy. And then we come to the eighth house of transformation, but also shared resources because it's the second house from the seventh. So in the seventh, we started relating to other folks. And then in the eighth house, we started sharing our relationship, our resources with the people that we are in relationship to. So with an Aquarian eighth house, what is your relationship to sharing resources for the good of humanity? That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about an Aquarian 8th house. Like, this is definitely the sort of person who might get an inheritance, which is an 8th house kind of thing. If I were to say an Aquarian way that somebody might receive an inheritance, maybe it's through like technology or social media or an internet startup or something. But either way, this is the kind of person that would receive an inheritance and immediately figure out ways to share it with community. And then besides just how we might share our resources, the eighth house also tells us what we might experience in terms of transformation through the course of our lives. And so with a Cancer rising, having an eighth house in Aquarius, how are you able to transform yourself when you are sitting in that Aquarian, rebellion, innovative, iconoclast kind of energy? How do you end up transforming yourself by sitting in some sort of queerness? And then we come to the ninth house being in Pisces for the Cancer rising. So the ninth house is so much about like how we find meaning in the world, how we answer those big questions of like why. And Pisces is a really good place to have that because Pisces is a very spiritually attuned sign. It wants to deal with art. It wants to deal with creativity. It wants to deal with connection and understanding that we are part of a universal whole body of energy. So with a ninth house, how are your personal philosophies rooted in that kind of energy? How much of your personal philosophy is understanding the importance of both love and the spiritual nature of creation? The ninth house also deals with our experiences of higher education, as well as like travel. And I'm talking about like international or long term travel. So, how much of those sorts of experiences may end up informing your creative or spiritual practice? And then we come to the Aries 10th house of it all for Cancer risings. You know, the 10th house is interesting, right? Because it is the equivalent of like high noon. If the birth chart is a clock, the 10th house is sitting right there in that high noon position, and it is very much what people can see easiest about us, or most easily about us, and what they can receive most easily about us. Now, mind you, I didn't say this is who we are, but rather this is what people can see and receive about us. And I underline that because Cancer rising would have a whole sign 10th house in Aries. Could not be more different energy, right? So Aries, another cardinal sign. If this is a cardinal sign, but this is the 10th house of career and public reputation, is this the experience of being an entrepreneur of some way, or or the experience of being a leader in your field in some kind of major way? Could it also be the experience of being known as being an independent thinker, or being maybe impulsive, or maybe decisive is a better word, or being more brash with your decision making? Also, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, is this the experience of somehow being a not maybe a leader in the field, or maybe even starting the business from scratch, from the ground up, like being the CEO in some kind of way? And because Aries is ruled by Mars, is there any association with Mars kind of energy in the career or public reputation? Is this person like in the physical fitness or sports realm, or do they work in military contracting? Any of the associations for Mars? I also associate Mars with surgery in the medical profession as well. So yeah, 10th house Aries kinds of energy, Martian energy. That's what I think of for that. And then we come to the Taurus 11th house. So for Cancer risings with this Taurus 11th house, the 11th house, first and foremost, is so much about like the friend groups that you belong to, the way that you find your place in society. And this is very much the experience of having very loyal friend groups and being loyal and committed to these friend groups. This is a very stable, committed, dependable person in community. This is also definitely the energy of I prefer to do Taurian things with people. So, like experiencing art or beauty, or maybe even straight up flowers and botanical gardens. That's something I very much associate with Taurus. Or is this the experience of like experiencing comfort with other people? So, like the finer things in life, fine dining as a group social activity, or going to the opera, just beautiful, beautiful sensory experiences that make you feel comfortable. That's what I think of when I think about trying to navigate friend groups in a Taurian kind of way. And finally, we get to the Gemini 12th house nature of the Cancer rising. So, the 12th house can be about all kinds of experiences in which we feel undone, the house of self undoing, right? And so it could be a spectrum of experiences like self betrayal. That's one way of undoing yourself. But also the experience of like experiencing spirituality that moves you in such a way that you lose sense of like your individual ego and understand yourself as part of a whole, a universal metaphysical energy. That's another way of undoing one's self. But yeah, with a Gemini 12th house, I wonder about, so many spiritual experiences. Like, quite literally, when I think about Gemini energy, I think of many of something. So, is this the experience of understanding a number of different spiritual traditions, spiritual and religious traditions? Or if this is the feeling of undoing oneself in self betrayal kinds of ways, is this somehow maybe talking too much, or being worried about talking too much, or just generally speaking, a restless mind, too much mental activity, anxiety, those kinds of feelings? And it's not just the having of those feelings, but the self-betrayal part comes in with the hiding of those feelings and not acknowledging the anxiety. Which, mind you, often the problem is similar to the cure, because what can be said for journaling or talking out problems aloud to a trusted individual or to yourself or to a pet as ways to deal with those overwhelming feelings of anxiety. That could be a Gemini way of dealing with 12th house issues. Okay, I've rambled way too much. I didn't want this video to be this long, but I did want to demonstrate that you can understand a whole lot about a person just knowing one placement, that very important, very crucial rising sign. Comment below, what is your rising sign? And are there any Cancer risings that watch this video? And comment below if you feel like if I read you, if I got close to you, if it felt spot on, if it felt far, far away and completely distant to your experience. Let's talk about it in the comments below. All right? All right. I'm so curious what y'all have to say. At any rate, thank you so much for supporting my work. Thank you for watching this video. A reminder to please subscribe and continue to watch my videos. Oh, and also maybe even consider becoming a member of this channel. Membership starts at $3.99 a month. Please consider it. It's the best way to support your favorite Black queer autistic astrologer. All right, friends. Thank you for watching this video. And of course, as always, thank you for making time for queer astrology. Bye.